draft them or acquire them. But they could get us as few as 3 or as many as 5 outstanding players.
The biggest story of the NFL offseason takes an unexpected twist. We've got it covered from every angle with Jeremy Fowler, Mina Kimes, Bill Barnwell, Rob Domofsky standing by, as is Todd Archer. I'm Phil Murphy. Jeremy, it wasn't that many days ago. The likelihood of this trade seemed remote. What are you hearing about why the Cowboys ended up doing this?
Well, Phil, the Cowboys decided early this week to just cut bait. They realized that whatever deal Jerry Jones thought he cut with Micah Parsons back in April in the meeting rooms, he thought he had a deal with the player. They were not accepting that. The Cowboys realized that, and the offers got a little bit better. I was told that team CEO Stephen Jones told the Packers or other teams, hey, it's going to take at least 2 ones and an impact defensive front player. And the Packers had the best package of them all. There were multiple teams involved. And so they sweetened the pot and got it done. And so this was a situation where there was just a fundamental difference between how the player's agent viewed the situation and how the owner viewed it. They just could not reconcile that in the end.
Yeah, I mean, just bluntly, I have yet to hear a coherent football defense of this from Dallas's side. If the argument, and we kind of heard Jerry spell this out, is they wanted to get better on run defense in the short term while also getting better on the long term with draft picks, it's not a good case. First of all, if that was the thinking behind it, then they should have made this move back in the spring when I have to believe they would have gotten a better return than this. A player who was a better run defender than Kenny Clark at this point in his career. Draft picks that were better than the ones they're likely to get from Green Bay, which are probably going to be near the end of the first round based on how good I think this team is. Draft picks that they could have spent this year on the likes of, I don't know, Tyreek Williams, the run-stuffing defensive tackle who went to Detroit. This makes the Dallas Cowboys a significantly worse team this season, and beyond that, it's entirely speculative. Sure, one of those late firsts could be Micah Parsons, but history suggests that is not going to happen. So if I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm absolutely furious because the process behind this has been so utterly flawed.
Yeah, Jerry Jones framing this process as logical and getting to a point that made sense does not really add up. By his own account, in March, Jerry Jones thought he signed Micah Parsons to an extension. And now we're sitting here in August, several months later, and he suddenly realized the Cowboys had a bad run defense? Nothing's changed between March and August when it came to the Cowboys' run defense. It was bad in 23, it was bad in 24. Nothing has changed. The All-22 existed when Jerry Jones made this deal with Micah Parsons in March. The reality is, what Jeremy said is absolutely correct. The Cowboys just woke up and decided we are not getting a deal done. And so at the end of the day, they took the best offer that was available. This is not a Herschel Walker trade. This is not an overwhelming offer. It's not unreasonable. It's not a terrible decision, but it is one that does not make any sense for the Cowboys in terms of where they are right now versus where they were in March.
Yeah, earlier this week we were speculating about which teams might be interested in putting together an offer, and we were coming up with the entire NFL, right? But the reality is the NFL season starts next week. So, and as great as Micah Parsons is, and as much as many teams wanted him, this is not the optimal time to trade a player. So, to me, you can't argue if you're Dallas that there was coherent logic or process behind this because they clearly changed their mind at some point this summer. And the fact that they did, and the fact that it clearly seems to be about the negotiation and Jerry's, frankly, outdated interpretation of how that thing should go. The reality is, guys, if he was a GM and not the owner of this team, he would not have a job, in my opinion, after this season.
Yeah, Mina, to your point, you made a great point about pre-draft. Should they have made the trade then, maybe they would have gotten a little more. I know a lot of teams I talked to agreed with that, but I did check with the Cowboys. They told me they were still in the mode of getting a deal done with Micah. At that point, the talks with Jerry Jones and Parsons were fresh, so they weren't trying to trade him. And they also fundamentally believe that they can get more in trades after the draft when teams aren't thinking about it as opposed to before. A lot of teams don't agree with that. That happens to be the Cowboys' stance. They are different than a lot of teams, as we're finding out in a lot of areas.
This is a defense that struggled last season, and now the top 4 in sacks from a year ago are all on different teams or on the PUP, and they didn't bring back Dante Fowler. He had 10.5 sacks last season in Washington. But we get a new look now, new on NFL Live. Parsons' first look in green and gold will be with a new number. Number 11 is occupied by Jayden Reed, so Parsons on X. Should I go 0 or 1? Here's the thing. One is kind of unofficially retired in Green Bay, unused since 1929 to honor six-time champ and namesake of the home field, Lambeau Field, Curly Lambeau. Let's welcome in Rob Domofsky from Lambeau Field. Rob, Micah's set to speak later this evening. This season kicks in 8 days. A not insignificant game against the Lions. As we wait to hear from Micah, what can you tell us about how the Packers see his addition playing out on the field?
Phil, we've spent so much time the last 23 hours talking about how this deal went down, but let's talk about how it helps them on the field right away. One of the things that they identified coming out of last season was a weakness with their pass rush. They watched how the Philadelphia Eagles steamrolled everyone, including the Packers, on their way to the Super Bowl, and they did it with mostly a four-man rush. Yet the Packers went through most of the offseason without any significant additions to that position. Now, Coach Matt LaFleur took matters into his own hands by making a change at the defensive line coach, and the guys have raved about new line coach DeMarcus Covington. But Jeff Hafley's defense, as good as it was last year in his first year as a coordinator, and this was a top 5 unit, the one area that they really struggled in was pass rush. They were in the bottom third of the league in pressure percentage. Their sack numbers weren't bad, but coaches say all the time it's more about pressures than sacks, and their pressure numbers were at the bottom third of the league, and we all know that's Micah Parsons' specialty.
And margins are small in this league. This is a Packers team that made the playoffs in 5 of 6 seasons under Matt LaFleur, but just 3 wins total in those 5 postseason trips. Rob, thank you. More regarding what the Packers add in Parsons, since the sack stat became official in 1982. Only 2 players have had a dozen sacks in each of their first 4 seasons. It's Hall of Famer Reggie White with the Eagles and then Micah Parsons with the Cowboys. Coincidentally, both found their way to Green Bay shortly thereafter. White did win a Super Bowl in his 4th season at Lambeau. White's sack numbers year 5 dipped all the way to 11, so he kept that form going, had 198 in his career. He was 31 when he got to Green Bay. Parsons is 26. What does this deal mean for these Packers?
I think it makes the Packers a Super Bowl contender, a Tier 1 team in my mind. Last year, Green Bay was the only team in the entire NFL to rank top 5 in both offensive yards per play and defensive yards per play. They are deep, they are young, they are extraordinarily well coached. What they needed was a star wide receiver, and they're hoping, obviously, that their first-round draft pick, Matthew Golden, can be a true one, and a star edge rusher. Rob alluded to this. As good as the defense was last year, and they were top 10 in most advanced metrics under their new defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, they were not particularly good at getting to the quarterback. In particular, that 4-man rush ranked near the bottom of the league in pressure rate and pass rush win.